Hey ladies and gentlemen, 49 coming at you live from High Official OUSA caster for the Otago Dota League Season 1. Just in the lobby waiting for the game to start between 5 Gweilos up against Team Struggle. It's the last Best 2 series for tonight. If you did miss on the earlier games from tonight, we had 2 Best 2 series. We had Bambi Rising up against TYK. Excellent series, really showcasing the power of the Group 2 matchup. We're calling Group 2 the Group of Death, and for very good reason. Second game was the 4 Horsemen of the Ruckus up against TYK. 2 very excellent games happening as well. I think Horsemen of the Ruckus are about to play Team Recursion in about 5 minutes. I won't be able to cast that game since I'm casting these guys, but I believe tomorrow there's a bunch of games happening as well. And so this will be a solo cast for the last cast of tonight. I had Yoshi as well as Flash join me for the earlier games. The VODs will be uploaded tomorrow, so you'll be able to check it out if you did miss it. And there we go. It looks like we're about to start. So Team Struggle, they're a pretty good team so far. Outside of Team Blink, they're probably the best contenders in the Group 1 playoffs. I've seen them do really well. They played against Paddy's Pub Stop about a week ago, completely and utterly destroyed them. Just loading into the game right now. So they've got their captain, BrightsideNZ, Seize the Cheese, Spooky Scary Skeleton, Tiggle, Biddies, and Diablos. Over on 5 Gweilos, we have Bromeo, Melon Fury, Personuno, Rezo, and Hobbs. And just a bit of a shout out to the fact that there's a lot of Team Blink players who've been observing and spectating these games recently. Team Blink, the favourites in the Group 1 playoffs so far. Team Struggle might give them a bit of a run for their money. I know Brightside's a fantastic mid player. We'll see how he fares up against Snow. Just waiting for the players to load on in, the draft to begin. And so I'm looking to see a great series so far. I mean, the other 2 games I've casted tonight have been both draws, which I'm ecstatic about. Great to see some back and forth action, especially Game 2. TYK up against 4 Horsemen of the Ruckus, about a 60-minute game, a lot of back and forth action, some great defensive play coming out from both sides, eventually conceding to the expert players from TYK. And there we go, everyone's loaded in, we're just about to start the drafts. And so it looks like first ban's going out to Struggle. They're actually called The Struggle, huh? So we'll see who they choose to ban. I've noticed a lot of Clockwork, Slug, and Ember Spirit as the first and secondary bans. Flash was talking to me about this earlier. He calls those 3 the top 3 heroes to ban just because they're so strong and so annoying to deal with. I mean, Slug, especially with the Shadow Dance being switched around to 5.5 seconds, was completely invulnerable. Add into the fact that he helps his support players D-Ward. Clockwork, he's a hero that can work really well in any lane situation. Throw him in 1v1, 1v2, 1v3, he doesn't care. He has cogs, he's always able to do well, get a lot of farm. Once he hits level 6 with that hook shot, you get a kill up against any of the support heroes that are caught out of position. He has that flare to always provide vision. Ember Spirit, although we did see a great Viper counter pick from Horseman of the Ruckus up against the Ember Spirit, we've actually got a first ban Death Prophet. This is most likely a respect ban. This Death Prophet, very strong hero, but not first ban material. Usually never, very rarely ban Death Prophet unless 5 Gweilos happens to have a spectacular DP player. I know King Killer from 4 Horsemen of the Ruckus played a great Death Prophet in their last game up against TYK. First ban Nature's Prophet, pretty standard ban. Very strong offlane hero, much like that Lone Druid, can use the trees to unleash creep aggro back. Another reason why he's so dangerous is the fact that if your trailing goes in for a gank attempt, he could TP in with that global teleportation spell, throw out a few right clicks, throw out that sprout. Secondary ban for the Bounty Hunter. The Team Struggle at banning out mid and offlane heroes. Very common this early on in the draft. You usually don't see all too many support heroes banned out unless if it's for a very good reason, especially not for the first and secondary bans. Usually want to ban out high priority heroes and that tend to be high impact, so Bounty Hunter Struggle don't want to have to deal with that track. They don't want to deal with how annoying he is in a 1v1 situation, and you can even go 1v3 if he's clever with juking around the trees. Maybe if he buys a hatchet, cuts his way into trees, uses invisibility to juke around the supports, make sure that they never see him, and we see that secondary Slark ban. That does open up Ember Spirit to be a first pick, as well as the Invoker. Both of these extremely powerful heroes that we have seen a decent amount of, especially today. First pick over for Team Struggle. We'll see who they choose to go for. Could be that Ember Spirit. And Shadow Shaman is their first pick. Very surprising. I guess they must have a great Shadow Shaman player in order to invest their first pick into that Shadow Shaman. As 5 Gweilos, if they really wanted to, they could pick up the Ember Spirit or the Invoker, as well as another support hero to go with that. Shadow Shaman provides a lot of power in a tri-lane, as well as in roaming. You've got that Shackle, you have that Hex. Ether Shock is a pretty high damage nuke, especially with more levels. However, the issue with Shadow Shaman is A, he's very slow, B, he's a pretty greedy pickup. He needs both levels and a reasonable amount of gold. You ideally want to have Arcane Boots on him, just because he does chew through mana so quickly. Lion is the first pick. Great parallel to the Shadow Shaman, has very similar role in providing that lockdown damage. Difference is, Lion doesn't have that pushing power that Shadow Shaman has with the Serpent Morts, but instead has that burst power coming out from the Finger of Death, as well as the fact that his Hex is 2.5 seconds at level 1, while his Shadow Shaman's is only 1 second. Mirana is the secondary pickup. Great combination with the Lion. Mirana can go in the off lane, middle lane, or in an aggressive tri lane, especially with someone like that Lion, because it helps set up that error. UGTFO from 4 Horsemen of Ruckus earlier today played both a tri lane support Mirana as well as a roaming Mirana. It's a hero that really can do a lot of work, especially if you've got a player good enough to land those arrows. And so the secondary battle, we've got Bristleback. We haven't seen all too much of Bristleback in the off-lane. I know the last game I cast the Team Struggle, I think it was Cease to Cheese who picked up that Bristleback. He didn't go boots for whatever reason, but nonetheless he had a lot of impact. The reason why Bristleback's such a great hero, especially in the 1v3 situation, is if you do happen to dive him, which you most likely will have to, you'll always be eating those quill spray procs to the face. It means if you do bring him down, you'll most likely be trading 1 or even 2 kills. If you don't kill him, he could always turn around, go for a kill attempt. In the off-lane, we usually see Bristleback players completely skipping the nasal goo. They go for points up in that quill spray and that secondary point up in that Bristleback, just give him a little bit more survivability. Third ban is that Bane Elemental, great support hero, especially in conjunction with that Mirana. Sleep into error. Not only that, if he catches you out of position, you're going for that sleep, give Lion and Mirana time to move up close, land the rest of their spells. Arrow into Earth Spike or into Hex, either of them. Not only that, he has great stat growth, 2.1 stats, every single stat at every single level, so he's tanky. He's a bit tankier, he's great attack animation. All in all, very strong hero, especially with Brain Sap being able to give him that extra buffer of HP. Visage, the so-called king of the tri-lane, very good reason why they banned that that Visage, especially with Shadow Shaman. As Visage can capture the position, use that Grave Chill. Shadow Shaman can follow up with the Shackles, follow up the Soul Assumption, you're dead. Never mind what the carry is doing at the same time. And so we'll look to see what the fourth ban is. Most likely we'll be saying probably mid-hero bans. OD is always a very safe ban, as the issue with OD is he pigeonholes your draft around him. You have to pick heroes that counter the OD, so it's heroes like the Viper or the Razor. Fourth ban, Crystal Maiden, very strong support hero. I can understand why she's banned out, especially in conjunction with that Lion, as the two complement each other very well. Crystal Maiden mitigates Lion's weakness, which is a relatively low reliable range, as you want to get up close to 500 to get that guaranteed Earth Spike if you're not too confident with your abilities to land a 700 range Impale.
10 seconds remaining.
Not only that, the fact that you have the Frost Nova to initiate at 900 range gives Lion time to walk on up, throw out that Earth Spike, throw out that Hex, that Arcane Aura also gives a lot of support to both the Mirana as well as the Lion. It's 1.5 mana regen per second, is no joke, even with just 1 point in it. And also means that Lion, as he chews through a lot of mana, Hex costs 200 mana at level 4. Having that Arcane Aura really does help out in the later stages of the game, as well as in the early stage, especially if you can pick a mid-hero that's really mana heavy, such as that Queen of Pain or that Shadow Fiend. We've got a Lycan fourth ban, so Hero has been seeing a lot of work, especially in recognition of that Shadow Shaman first pick. They know that Team Struggle potentially want to go for early push strat, so they can shutting off the heroes that provide a lot of benefit to push strats. And so we'll see what that third pickup is.
Reserve time.
Dipping into their reserve time, Struggle's already down to only about a minute of reserve time. They pick up that Timbersaw, great pickup, especially against that Bristleback, as Bristleback's a melee strength hero. These are two things that Timbersaw loves. He loves melee heroes because that means that they always have to eat that Whirling Death if they want to stay in and lane and get some CS. And since Bristleback's a strength hero, the fact that Timbersaw as Whirling Death reduces 15% of the primary stat, in this case strength, it means that Bristleback takes extra damage from that Q because it reduces his effective HP pool. Not only that, if he also clips a tree, it becomes pure damage, really cuts through Bristleback, as Bristleback relies on his reasonably good armor as well as his Bristleback passive to keep him alive. We have that Lich as that secondary support pickup. Not too big of a fan of Lich, just because of the fact that he can't really rotate or gank on his own. He has Frost Blast, and he can't really rotate into support if his mid gets dove on and he TPs in. All he can really do is throw out that Frost Blast. He doesn't have any form of CC to hold them in place. And as Frost Blast has cost a lot of mana, usually you see a lot of Lich players choose to max out sacrifices because it gives you EXP now. So you can use that to stay relevant. And outside Chain Frost, his teamfight potential is pretty limited. But in this case, with that Shadow Shaman, having that Shackle, having that Hex, you do have the two complement each other really well, much like the Lion and the Crystal Maiden, which they banned out, which could have been a potential duo. They complement each other very well, and having Lich at the very start of the game deny either a melee or a range creep, preferably a range creep from the mid lane, helps the mid lane secure creep equilibrium and dominate the lane. Moving on to the 4th pick for 5 Gweilos, they're hesitating a bit, dipping into their reserve time. They've got their offlane picked out. They've got potentially their mid or their tri-lane hero. Mirana can go both. She would like to be in the tri-lane, since that means that she has 2 other heroes that can help set up her era compared to the mid lane, so they most likely want to be picking their mid lane hero right now. Never mind, they go for another support hero, Dazzle. Probably one of the best scaling support heroes in the game, as all of his abilities scale very well into the late game. Shallow Grave gives you 5 seconds of invulnerability where you cannot die. In try-be-try situation, especially with the recent buff to Shallow Grave, having 550 range at level 1. Huge increase from before when it had about 300 range, means that if you ever go for a try-be-try situation, so long as Dazzle's in range throughout that Shallow Grave, you can play balls to the wall, means that your support heroes can stay alive, their support heroes have to dive in closer to get a kill attempt on you. Not only that, you have Poison Touch, which has recently been rescaled to be effective at all levels. They've only been effective at level 3 like it was before. So even with 1 point up in Poison Touch, there's a lot of potential power coming up from him. Dazzle hits very hard for a ranged hero. About 55 to 57 base damage, something along those lines. Shadow Wave also helps push out waves, means that while he is a pretty greedy support hero, he can always find levels in EXP. All he has to do is walk up, heal a wave. Wave instantly gets gibleted by the wave. And it also helps with the push. Weave is relevant in all stages of the game just because it reduces an enemy team's armor, increases yours, has a huge AoE, so you're always guaranteed to get at least 3 or 4 heroes. Lifestealer picked up, which is a bit interesting considering the fact they have it Dazzle. Dazzle does do very well against that Lifestealer, as Lifestealer is very low base armor. Weave removes that. Outside of Rage, you could kite him around with that Poison Touch, and if Lifestealer goes in a hero, since he can be kited around a lot, all you could do is throw out that Shallow Grave, keep him alive for a bit longer, force that Lifestealer to waste the full duration of his rage, right-clicking that hero down. Can mean the difference between life and death. Not only that, as both Bristleback and Lifestealer are melee heroes, they tend to cop a lot of damage from Shadow Wave. Every time he heals a creep wave. Moving on to the 5th ban for 5 Gweilos. Most likely we'll be wanting to ban out mid heroes now, as I've seen the tri-lanes being set up, Shadow Shaman, Lich, as well as the Knights. And yeah, there we go, we've got the OD ban. Recognizing that OD is an excellent 1v1 hero, they don't want to have to pigeonhole their mid pick. And we've got the offlane with the Bristleback, and tri-lane with the Shadow Shaman, Lich, and Knight, so the only hero they have left to pick now is their mid. Bit surprising that the mid was the last hero they picked. Usually you see the mid hero picked up fairly early. Depending on how the draft is going, you want to wait until you pick up your carry, as the carry player tends to be reasonably versatile, and you've got a much bigger pool of heroes to pick from. Offlane and support tend to be the highest priority. Luna ban, an excellent ban, especially if you keep in mind the fact that Mirana can go mid. So Lion, Dazzle, and Luna is a terrifying combination, as Luna's aura provides plus 14 damage to its 2 supports, as well as excellent night vision at 1800. Lucid Beam can follow up from 700 range, meaning that even while she's farming creeps, if Lion and Dazzle decide to engage someone, she could run up, throw out that Lucid Beam for that last hit, resume farming, provides a huge amount of teamfight power once she gets her BKB in her Eclipse. And with excellent siege potential, once she picks up that mantle with a few points up in Glaive, she can push down towers. The bouncing Glaives can disable blink cooldowns. Dipping into the last of the reserve time for their 5th pick, they're going to want to pick up most likely a mid hero, so they have a tri-lane Mirana, off-lane Timbersaw, and so they're going to want a mid hero for that. Mirana can go into mid, she's not terrible at it, she can get a lot of early levels, having that early level 6 can help out with the rest of your team with those rotations. However, the drawbacks to Mirana as a mid lane hero is she has to get an animation, her projectile speed is about average, but she has pretty low base damage, so she can get beaten in CS by a lot of heroes. And the fact that she does benefit from it, but not as much as a lot of other heroes, as her solo gank power is completely determined by how good the Mirana player is at landing arrows. So it's a bit of a risky thing to do. I mean, a lot of pro teams that have a player like Sing Sing, who's excellent with those arrows, they like to throw in mid just because they know that he's most likely going to be able to consistently land those arrows, create gank opportunities for himself. But in this case, we'll want to see him that tri-lane Weaver. So it looks like, yeah, we are going to be seeing, we could also see him run in the off-lane and Timbersaw in the middle lane. This is something that can be used. Timbersaw is not too bad at the middle lane. Max out that Whirling Death. Use that to both farm and harass the enemy hero. Get a few points on that reactive armor. Use that to tank hits. Once you hit level 6, your ganking power goes through the roof. The biggest disadvantage of Timbersaw is the fact that he does need a reasonable amount of farm to be effective. You want to pick up Arcane Boots, ideally before you start ganking, as your mana pool is really limited, and especially with the recent nerfs to Track Them costing a lot more mana. It's definitely a big pickup that you need.
5 seconds remaining.
Also, in terms of the mid game, you want to pick up something like either the Blink Dagger, the Force Staff, the Mechanism, or the Bloodstone. You need to pick up some pretty hefty items for your teamfight potential really starts to skyrocket. Bloodstone is core in Timbersaw just because it gives him everything he needs. It really gives him that mana regeneration, be able to take full usage of his abilities. Weaver in a tri-lane situation is fantastic. It's a very strong tri-lane coming up from 5 Gweilos. You have the line to provide the CC, Dazzle to provide the survivability, and Weaver to provide the sheer amount of damage output. With Sakuchi has a high time on target. Looks like we've got a Doom pickup, so most likely we'll be seeing Doom mid. No, actually, it looks like a Shadow Shaman mid. BrightsideNZ is their mid player. Might be seeing him mid. In that case, will we be seeing a Doom jungle with a Lich and a Lifestealer? Very greedy build. Not too sure if that will work out. Most likely we'll be seeing that Bristleback in the offlane, but we'll see how Struggle chooses to lane this. They could always have... Because, I mean, Lifestealer and Bristleback, they can go mid, but it's just not very ideal. Bit interesting to see. Looks like... Yeah, Doom looks like he's going to the jungle. Looks like BrightsideNZ, yeah, he's definitely going mid. He's their mid player. Sees the cheese once again on that offlane Bristleback. Tiggle Biddy's their carry player. With that, starting with that Quelling Blade on Lifestealer, this is something me and Yoshi were talking about. Not really something you want to do. You always want to start that Stealth Shield on Lifestealer, as, I mean, look at your base damage. 60 to 70 base damage, one of the highest starting base damages in the game. You've got an excellent animation, and on top of that, you'll most likely have a point of feast pretty soon. You really don't need the extra 32% damage coming out from that Quelling Blade. Much better off getting survivability. It's got 1 armor, especially if you start to clash Tri-v-Tri. Looks like Mirana will be over on the off lane. Yeah, mid lane Timbersaw. And the tri-lane. Actually, no, never mind. It's a tri-lane with the Mirana. And Weaver going 1v1 in the off lane. Up against that Bristleback, I'd have to hand the advantage over to the Weaver. Just because he's a ranged hero and he has that Sakuchi to always get out of range from that Bristleback. However, at the same time, if he overcommits, Bristleback can easily turn around and kill him with those quill sprays. Should be pretty interesting. Shadow Shaman up against the Timbersaw. I'm really not too sure who to favor the advantage to. One of the biggest advantages of the Shadow Shaman in the mid position is once you hit level 6, if you're able to get those ward traps off, you could completely control the enemy hero. Wards do so much damage if you get a good ward trap off. Looks like Bromy has picked up Illusion Rune. Could actually turn around and go on Lich. He eats an Impale to the face. If he had Poison Touch, that would have actually been a kill attempt on Lich. His Lich was caught way out of position. Nonetheless, he's holding onto the skill point. He wants to make sure that if he needs to skill Grave, he can skill Grave. Lion decided to go for level 1 Earthspike. Could have gone for level 1 Hex as well. 2.5 seconds at level 1. Nothing to sneeze at. A lot of potential power coming out from that. Hobbs off to a good start. 1 CS so far. BrightsideNZ playing very passively. I'm not too sure what the rationale behind that is. Maybe he was afraid that supports could be rotating in. Choosing to skill Shackles at level 1. Very interesting. Usually you see Aether Shock at level 1, especially with the change, so that Aether Shock at level 1 does 120 damage to one target. Means you can throw it out, you should harass the enemy mid-hero back. Just do a lot of damage to him. Tiggle, but he's taking a lot of harassment. He really wishes he had a Stealth Shield right now, especially against a triple ranged tri-lane. Skilling with open wounds first. This is something that me and Yoshi are talking about once again. The reason why you pick Lifestealer is to max open wounds. You want it, if you have to max rage, you do, but ideally you always want to max open wounds, because the range right now is about 200. Very difficult to initiate with that open wounds. Once with a few more points in it, you can use it to help initiate ganks, use it to give yourself a lot more time on target. Arrow flies out, misses, but scouts out Diablo. It's over in the pool, he gets that stack off, sacrifices off cooldown, he's going to sacrifice the creep. Hopefully anytime soon. There we go, he's hanging around right now. Looking to sacrifice that creep, use that to, because it gives him EXP as well as denying the enemy team. That's one of the reasons why Lich is picked up, is he's so good at controlling the wave and controlling the enemy's EXP. Sees the cheese, burning out a lot of mana up against this Weaver. Weaver not starting off with the wands. Bit surprising considering he knew the fact that he was up against a Bristleback, choosing to start with a tank with a mana potion instead. Lifestealer taking a lot of harassment damage. He's got 8 tangos and he's got a point up in feast now. But if having that Stealth Shield really would mitigate a lot of that damage coming out. But what can you do? BrightsideNZ already has his bottle, off to a pretty good start. Hobbs having to go for that Stealth Shield is getting harassed out. It's one of the drawbacks of Timbersaw. Even with a point up and reactive armor, when you're going to the mid lane, you always want to start off with a point up and Welling Death just to use it to get CS and control the wave. It means that, therefore, since you have 0 armor, you need to start off with a Stealth Shield up against a ranged hero. It means that he's got a lot more gold to farm up before you get to that bottle. Over in the top lane, arrow flies out. Never mind, that was just a trick of the light. It was just a regular attack animation. Tiggle Biddies getting a decent start. We see that the Dire side's already dominating in terms of CS. All 5 players in the Dire's, 4 out of the 5 players have the most amount of CS, compared with only Lich hanging behind at 3 for 2. BrightsideNZ just picks up his bottle, choosing to go for an extra point in Shackles instead of a point in Hex. This is very interesting. The reason why you go for a point in Hex, especially over in the mid lane, is you use Hex to set up your ult. You Hex them, reduces them down to 100 movement speed, then you just click on your ult, you click right on top of them when they're moving away at 100 movement speed. traps them in the ward, then you throw out your Shackle and they're dead. No hero could survive that combination, especially at level 6. Over in the top lane we see a bit of action happening. Arrow lands on Nyx. Shallow Grave was forced out on Bromeo. He pops his rage, he's going to back on now. He wanted to go for a kill, but then he realized, no, I'm a bit too low, they're just going to beat me down with physical damage, and Bromeo's forced back, he's going to munch on a tree, get a little bit of regeneration going. Over in the bottom lane, looks like Bristleback's off to a fantastic start. He's actually leading the CS scoreboard to 15 for 3, up against a Weaver at 8 for 0. Very interesting, considering that Weaver not only has Sakuchi, which he could use to get CS, he also has Geminate attack, and Weaver has pretty high base damage for a ranged hero. Very easy for Weaver to CS. We see a bit of harassment happening over in the top lane. Diablo is copying a lot of damage from Mirana, as well as the line. Mirana, she does have a pretty mediocre attack point, but it does make it great for chasing. Just because she has an attack point of about 0.5, she could throw out an attack, move, and then throw out another attack again. Similar to that anti-mage, where attack animation cancelling is crucial in order to be able to play the hero. Bromeo taking a lot of damage. If Diablo's a bit more mana, arrow unfortunately misses. That arrow landed. That could have been a kill attempt. Diablos really wishes he had that Frost Blast right now. If he had enough mana for that, he could have gone for a kill. Unfortunately, wasn't able to sacrifice a creep in time. No creeps around from the sacrifice, so was content to throw out a few more last hits. Dazzle being really harassed at the lane. Got that point up over in that Shallow Grave. Got that point up over in the Shadow Wave. No points up in that Poison Touch has really hindered their effectiveness as an aggressive tri-lane. So far, the Radiant side really haven't punished the fact that it's just Nyx and just the Lich. Nyx should not be getting this much CS. He's only sitting about 10 for 1 right now, so he has been harassed back a bit. Frostblast flows out on Melon Fury. He could turn around and go for a kill attempt there with that Impale, with that Hex, with that Arrow and Starstorm. Could have gone for a kill, but instead of being bullied back. I think the Radiant side a little bit afraid of the amount of power coming out from the Dire. Bit surprising, it seems to be a psychological thing. Meanwhile, over in the middle lane, we see that Shadow Shaman's off to a great start. He's really controlling the lane. He's got his level 6. He just needs mana to throw out his ult. The way he is farming, he'll be able to pick up his Arcane Boots very quickly. Once he gets his Arcanes, once he gets his Blink, he can really start creating plays. Chakram thrown out, clips Brightside New Zealand, does a decent amount of damage to him. Hobbs is doing alright. He's able to hold his own. Not having the best game so far, but he's got a decent amount of CS. 20 for 1, up against 26 for 6. Considering the fact that it's range against melee, it's not too shabby at all. Over in the top lane, we see a bit more action happening. Frostbite phone out on Melon Fury. That's one of the annoying things about Lich, especially if you're in a situation like that. You can always walk out, throw out those free Frost Blasts. Bromeo is actually going to be scouted out by Diablos. Doesn't turn around, doesn't have that point up from that Poison Touch. If he had that, could potentially turn that around to a kill. Turning around, trading right clicks. They're not punishing this Lich every time he walks forward to Frost Blast. Lion is in the same range to be able to impale him, to run up a bit forward. Throw out that Hex, throw out that Poison Touch, get that arrow, kill off that Lich every time he plays a little bit aggressive, because right now it's 2v3 right now, and Nyx is too far behind. There isn't an awful lot he could do to help out, especially since Lich is hanging out in the zone. We see that the Radiant side actually have placed a Sentry Ward over there to counter what any potential safety wards the Dire side could throw out. Frost Blast thrown up on Diablos. Diablos is hexed up. Where's the arrow? Nothing happening. Brightside New Zealand runs in, throws out the Serpent Wards offensively. Is in range of the tower, unfortunately. The tower is going to kill off a field, and Melon Fury goes down to the Serpent Ward damage. First blood goes to Team Struggle. Shackles out Rizzo. Rizzo goes down to one last right click. Never mind, the Shackle damage kills him. Bromeo runs like hell. He popped his Shallow Grave. He popped his Shadow Wave. He has no mana. He's got nothing. Lifestealer has picked up a Treads. Not really a big fan of Treads up on Lifestealers. The whole point of Lifestealer is you need to be hitting them. Treads doesn't really help you with that. You don't really need attack speed, as Rage gives you all the attack speed you really need. Choosing the maxed out Beast as well. Once again, folks, don't do this at home. Max Open Wounds, max Rage, go Phase Boots for Christ's sake. That's the reason you pick the hero, is to do damage, is to have that chasing power coming out from Open Wounds, not so you could get that extra feast damage off. That scales very well into the late game. No particular reason for you to skill that at all in the early phases of the game, unless you're against certain lineups. Over in the bottom lane, Sees the Cheese, off to a fantastic start, 33 for 6 compared to 20 for 2 on the Weaver. I'm not too sure why this Weaver is having such a terrible time laning against the Bristleback. Still hasn't picked up a Magic Stick, which is very surprising, considering the fact that Bristleback is always forced to spam out those cool sprays, especially in a 1v1 situation like this, against the ranged hero if he wants to get CS. Having that Magic Wand provides an extra buffer of 150 HP and 150 mana. He's got Time Lapse now, so Bristleback knows he most likely won't be able to go for a kill attempt on that Weaver, unless Weaver overextends onto him. Over in the middle lane, Hobbs is hanging around. We haven't really seen ultimate rotations from him. Brightside New Zealand's been bullying him back. He's picked up his Arcane Boots. He's about 500 gold away from his Blink Dagger, with that first blood kill, he's doing pretty well for himself. Timbersaw himself has just picked up his Arcane Boot, so if he wants to go for gank attempts, now would be the best time. He's already got 4 points up in that Welling Death, 1 point up in that Timber Chain, and with that Chakram, that's an awful lot of pure damage that he could potentially throw out. He needs to start rotating around the map and punishing the players of Struggle. In terms of EXP, 3,000 EXP in favor of Team Struggle. In terms of gold, 5,000. In terms of Struggle, they're really making it work. We have a smoke rotation coming out from Bromia and Melon Fury. We'll see if Bromia actually has a point in Poison Touch. No, he doesn't. He chose to get a secondary point Shadow Wave. Not too sure how I feel about this, as Dazzle can't really go in for a gank unless he has Poison Touch. He doesn't really offer anything otherwise. Like a Baden, he has great defensive powers, no real offensive powers, unless you get that point up. And that Poison Touch, and arrow actually lands on Diablos. Great arrow coming up from the trees from Rizzo. Chakram's thrown out, followed by the Welling Death. And Dazzle secures the kill with that Shadow Wave. Great kill coming out there. Excellent arrow flying out from Mirana. No help needed at all. Lands the arrow on Diablos. He tried to juke out, but wasn't able to move out fast in time. Gets that kill over in the middle lane. BrightsideNZ throws out the wards. He's using the push to lane. This is one of the reasons why Shadow Shaman is such a pain in the ass, especially in the mid lane. It is like that Death Prophet. Every time you leave to go in for a TP rotation, to go for a gank, he just pushes down your tower. Kind of like that Pugner. You can't leave him alone, but at the same time, if you do, he's able to bully you out of the lane. Sees the cheese, caught up by that Hex by Melon Fury. Not too sure why he threw out that Hex. It's a lot of mana wasted for no real damage, no harassment, nothing at all. You always want to make sure to conserve your mana with a line, especially once you hit level 6, as your ultimate does chew up a huge amount of mana. Hex uses up a decent amount. Haven't been keeping track of this Doombringer, but he has not been ganked at all, despite the fact that he's jungling. Picked up the Alpha Wolf creep, already has his Midas, he's having a fantastic start. We'll see if he chooses to go for something like a Shadow Blade, chooses to go for that carry Doombringer build. Over in the bottom lane, we actually see a rotation happening. Nikes as well as the Lich Frostbite, followed by a few right clicks. Looks like he threw out that Infest for that, choosing to max out Rage secondary. Not really too sure why he's not maxing out that Open Wounds. The majority of Nikes' early game is the fact that you have that Open Wounds with an 80% snare that decreases over the next few seconds. Weaver eats a Frost Blast to the face, actually drives him back. He can't stand up against this. Lifestealer can actually go for a kill attempt right now. If he uses that Infest, he would have just enough damage to kill him. Don't think he recognizes how low that Weaver is or how much damage his Infest does at level 1. Bit too late now. Weaver's regenerated enough. Diablos is called out once again. Eats that Chakram, eats that Welling Death, taking a lot of damage. Open Wounds thrown out by Nikes. Diablos is going to turn around, throw out that Frost Blast. Hobbs is going to attempt to Timber Chain his way out. They don't have any stuns to disable him. Shallow Grave thrown out way too early. Turns around, throws out that Chakram. Chakram unfortunately misses a bit. Hit Diablos. He could follow up with that Timber Chain and that Welling Death, and that would have been a kill. But nonetheless, bit of action happening, but no reward. Kill did go down. Oh, never mind. That was that Lich from earlier. Over in the middle lane, we see Brightside New Zealand once again pushing down the tower. Uses that second cast of Serpent Wards. Bit of a waste in the fact that he had to use both casts of his ult to bring it down. He's used his ult 3 times so far. Once to get a kill at the top lane. Once to get twice to get the tower over the middle lane. Actually, looks like Lich took out Timbersaw. I'm not too sure what happened there. Must have been a Frost Blast kill. Bromio's hanging around. We'll see if he's finally leveled Poison Touch. Decided to play aggressively. There we go. Got that 1 point up on Poison Touch. Picking up that Magic Wand. Flying up towards him. He's been doing okay with his Shallow Graves. It's been a little bit too premature. But then again, better safe than sorry. Over in the top lane, sees the cheese. He's taken the top tier 1 tower. A lot of gold to flying advantage of them. The bottom lane, we've got a rotation coming out. We've got Weaver coming in. We'll see what items he's got so far. He just has Treads as well as the Ring of Aquila. With the Weaver, especially in a 1v1 situation, actually over in the top lane, gank attack happening. Bristleback goes down to the amount of right-click power coming up from that run. I think she got that last hit in while she was chasing him down. Looks like an arrow must have landed, followed by the Chakram. Good gank attempt. Rizzo has been pretty good so far with his arrows. Spiking a little bit, do apologize. I'm not too sure what's been happening out with my internet. Bottom lane, Weaver is taking a lot of harassment damage. One of the advantages of picking Weaver, especially in a 1v1 situation like this, is he doesn't have to build boots or finish his boots until way later on in the game. He could choose to forgo his treads, he'd have his perseverance up by now, just go right for that Lincoln's. Brightside New Zealand, chasing around. We'll see if he went for that Blink Dagger. No, never mind, has a perseverance, so could be potentially a Refresher Orb, or maybe a Bloodstone. Bloodstone I would like a little bit more. Refresher Orb would be nice, but that's way too much mana that he's expending right now. I don't think he even have the mana pool to do it. The fact that with Shadow Shaman, your Serpent Wards are nice, but the rest of your abilities also help a lot more as well. Perseverance, I'm not too sure why he chose not to go for that Blink Dagger. Blink Dagger is a great pickup on Shadow Shaman, just because it gives you a gap closer. Nyx is caught way out of position, eats the Impale, eats the Hex, eats the Poison Touch, and goes down to the finger. Diablos goes in for a kill, but it's caught up by an arrow, and he's going to go down. Serpent Ward's thrown out. Melon Fury is caught out with Shackle as well as Serpent Wards. BrightsideNZ New Zealand makes it a trade. He at least gets one, avenges his comrades.
All alone in the world, being attacked.
And yeah, that looks like a Bloodstone pickup. Wow, he already has his blood. 13 minutes in, BrightsideNZ New Zealand already has his Bloodstone. Would like to see a Blink Dagger on him next, or perhaps an Aghanim Scepter. Really increases the amount of damage a Serpent Wards does. Blink Dagger's great on Shadow Shamans, allows you to blink in, get that Hex, land that Ward Trap, then throw out the Shackles. Gives you a lot of solo kill power. As Shadow Shaman has 280 base movement speed, about as slow as Crystal Maiden. Not very fast. Bristleback, it's a solo kill over on Timbersaw in the top lane. Underestimating the power of that Warpath, especially in conjunction with that Quill Spray, as well as the negative armor coming out from the viscous nasal glue. It looks like he's going to pick up his Vanguard, already has a Ring of Health. Not unsure he'll be picking up the mech for that, most likely Lich, yeah, there we go, Lich almost has his mech picked up already. The Tower Gold coming in from Team Struggle, really helping them out. Over in the bottom lane, looks like we see a push happening with 3 players from Team Struggle, grouping on bot. Dazzle not able to do all too much. Mirana's a bit too low mana. She'll have enough mana for an arrow in a few seconds from passive regeneration. Diablos comes in, throws out that Chain Frost. Bit unfortunate. Actually bounces off to Mirana twice, but bounces towards the creeps. Romeo caught out of position. He's going to go down. Ether Shock to finish him off. Hobbs comes in, throws out the Chakram, throws out to the Nyx who's in Rage Form, so he doesn't care. Open Wound's going to fly out. Catch him out of position. Frost Blast, taking a lot of damage. Throws out that Whirling Death, does a lot of damage. He's caught out by Shackles underneath the tower, but he's a bit too afraid to go back in. Doesn't want to eat that Whirling Death and Chakram combination again. BrightsideNZ New Zealand finishes him off with that Ether Shock, and he gets a double kill. And Doom decides to join the party. He's sick of farming in the jungle. The fact that the Dire side went for a really aggressive, greedy build, a really greedy draft with having that jungle Doom, and the fact that the Radiant side did not punish them, despite the fact that both Line and Dazzle, or even one of them would be enough to kill off that Doombringer. Doom is a pretty slow jungler in the sense that he's got low armor and low HP. He's got high HP but low armor and low movement speed. When Scorched Earth is down, it's very easy to bring down. Not only that, the fact that he has to physically tank the creeps himself in order to jungle, unless he eats that Centaur Dark Troll Summoner, means he'll always be at about half HP, pretty easy to gank, similar to an Axe, similar to a Legion Commander jungle. All you have to do is send a hero in, right-click him, throw out a snare, and he goes down easy. Just going to do a quick golden EXP check. In terms of EXP, 7,500 in favor of Team Struggle. In terms of gold, about 12k gold lead. Struggle leading the way, a few unconventional pickups on their side, especially with the fact that Shadow Shaman chose to disregard Hex until he had maxed out his Shackle, but nonetheless, he's making it work. He's actually gone for Trench, a bit surprising. Diablo's eating a lot of damage, gets that Hex out, he's got Serpent Wards, arrow flies out, hits Tiggle, but he's right in the face, throws out Serpent Wards, but the Mirana ultimate's gone down. I don't think they have Dust or Sentries to be able to spot them out, so it looks like a wasted amount of Serpent Wards. Dust is popped, Hobbs score out of position, Timbersaw is doomed, shackled, and being beaten on by 4 heroes. He's really not having all too much fun. BrightsideNZ New Zealand throws out another Ether Shock. Open Wounds up on Mirana. He's going to go down. Never mind. Shallow Grave and Finger at Death onto the Nyx. Nyx is caught a little bit too far in position and gets bolted in the face. And Team Struggle wisely back off. 1 for 1. One of their cores for their mid. Bit of a messy trade. The Serpent Wards is thrown down as well. They were unable to get the tower. Personally give the advantage over to the Radiant side. They were able to end the spree of the Nyx as well as kill one of their cores. But with that Midas pickup on Doom, he's getting a huge amount of gold, 3.16k. We'll see if he chooses to go for something. He could actually even go for a Radiance if he really wanted to. I'd like to see something like Shadow Blade, give him a lot of solo gank power. But he's holding onto his gold so far. BrightsideNZ New Zealand, hanging around. Like to see a Blink Dagger on him. Like to see an Aghanim Scepter. Shadow Shaman does okay with items, just because Aghanim Scepter does increase his ward damage by a significant amount. Having that Blink Dagger gives a lot more solo ganking potential, especially since he already has an inbuilt Hex. And super later on in the game, if he gets a lot of farm and happens to pick up a Sheep Stick, he now has 3 disables to bring to the table. Bit surprising he chose to upgrade his boots to Treads. Ideally, we would have liked to see something maybe like Phase Boots, maybe build another Arcane, or even just keep it in Naked Boots to build into Boots of Travel later on. My internet's spiking like crazy. I'm not too sure what's happening over on my end. Hopefully it shouldn't be too big of a deal. We see a bit of a glitch happening in the middle lane. That looked like one of Lich's attacks, frozen in midair. Nonetheless, we've got a rotation happening over into the top lane. Got Nike's Bomb over on Brightside New Zealand with the haste rune. Never mind, he's going mid. No, he's hanging around. Unsure where to go. Metal Fury's going to face check this. Gets hexed. Gets caught out. Beaten to death by Bristleback. Chain Frost thrown out. Bit of a waste. Both Chain Frost so far haven't been all too great from Diablos. But he's able, maybe, no, never mind. He's not able to get that right click in. And he's going to go down to that Weaver. Diablos overcommits and is called out by the Weaver. With that Sakuchi, Brightside New Zealand hanging around the entire team from Struggle. Never mind, Weaver backs off as the rest of Struggle there to back him up. Serpent Ward's placed just outside the tower, which is a bit unfortunate. Timbersaw is able to take the tier 1 at the top lane, but they trade that for the tier 2 in the mid. Team Struggle are more than happy to trade for that. Just going to do a quick item check alongside of the Radiant. Timbersaw just has his boots as well as Arcane boots. We see Brightside New Zealand just picked up his Blink Dagger. Treads as well as Ring of Aquila on Mirana. Weaver just has Treads and the Ring of Health. He's going for that Lincoln Sphere. Lion most likely will be building that mechanism. He's got that Ring of Regeneration. Dazzle not doing all too great. Just sitting on boots. Might upgrade that to Arcane. Might pick up something like a Medallion of Courage, give him a lot more power. Roshan attempt happening over from Team Struggle. Not spotted out. I think it's going to happen undetected. They might know something's happening, but I don't really think they can interrupt this right now. And there we go. Roshan attempt happens over in terms of Dire, in terms of their items. Bloodstone with 13 charges. Mirana ultimate just thrown out. Where the sentry is, where the dust. Spooky Scaly Skeleton throws out the dust, catches out Rezo. Rezo has already been shackled up. Dooms the Timbersaw, making him effectively useless. Shallow Grave on the Mirana. He's going to get chased down. He's going to tick down from that Scorched Earth damage if Lifestealer doesn't beat him down first. Dazzle runs a bit too far forward, is beaten by Bristleback. Weaver's called out. Hexed, shackled, and he goes down. Great play coming out from Team Struggle. 5 Gweilos really seem a bit uncertain of themselves. The 2 support heroes keep on backing off and running back into the fight, wasting a lot of time. In terms of Bristleback, let's see his items. He's got... Never mind, he didn't go for that Vanguard. He went instead for an early pipe. Great pickup considering the amount of magical damage coming out. Unfortunately, pure damage isn't disabled by the pipe. It goes right through. But the Mirana as well as the Lion, that Starstorm, Impale, and Finger of Death. Not great reasons to go for it, but not too bad. Shiva's Guard picked up on Doombringer, especially with the recent buff. Negative 40% attack speed. Brightside New Zealand called out. Hex is a creep by accident. No, never mind. Melon Fury Hex is a creep by accident. They're going to take that Tattoo Tower for free. Shiva's Guard is a great pickup on Doombringer, as Doombringer has pretty good HP growth from his high strength gain, but he has very low armor growth, as well as a low mana pool. Picking up that Shiva's Guard solves both of his problems, enables him to spam out that level death, ensures that he can throw out Doom without any worries. Means that he has another snare that he can follow up with. Lifestealer picks up that Sange, looks like he's going for that S and Y. Heredity has drums, has treads. The movement speed coming up from S and Y as well as treads should give him a decent amount of chasing power. Would have liked to see face boots on him, but nonetheless it's not too bad. Mechanism finished up on Lich, he has enough mana, gold to finish it off right now. Shiva's Guard picked up significant gold lead on favor of Team Struggle. 15,000 EXP lead, 21 minutes into the game. This is astounding. And 20,000 gold lead in favor of Team Struggle. They are really controlling the map right now. 5 Gweilos caught in a very tricky situation. They're losing their tier 1s and tier 2s. They've only got 1 tier 2 tower left. They're getting completely destroyed in these fights because of the sheer item advantage coming out from the Dire side. And not only that, level advantage. Dazzle still hasn't picked up his ultimate. He's sitting at level 7. Bit interesting, he chose not to go for Weave, as it does offer a lot. There we go, he's picked up his first point Weave over at level 8. Choosing not to max out any of his abilities with 2 points up in Shallow Grave, 2 points in Poison Touch, and 3 points up in that Shadow Wave. Bit interesting considering you usually want to keep Poison Touch at level 1 with the recent change. Brightside New Zealand scouts out Hobbs, pops his Illusion Runes, goes in for the Hex, called out by the Impale. They're pinging him out, they know he's there. Sees the cheese hanging around the back end. Dazzle caught way out of position, unable to throw out this Shallow Grave. He does have a pretty long cast point. Means that you can kill him before he throws it out. And that's a free Tattoo Tower. Roshan will be claimed in 3 minutes, so it looks like the Dire side are grouping up for a push. They have their Serpent Wards up, they have their Chain Frost, they have their Doom. Looks like they're going in for blood. They want to push, get an early Rax. Serpent Wards are thrown down in the high ground. Chakram thrown out to defend. They're just sitting there face tanking and they don't really care. Diablos is called out by Impale as well as Hex. Eats that arrow to the face. Melon Fury called out by that Hex as well. Mechanism keeps Diablos alive for a bit longer, forcing him to commit that Mirana. Hobbs is doomed. He's gooed up. He goes down. Lion buys back. None of his None of those other team members are able to buy back. Without their 2 cores, not too much they can do. Weaver is pretty ineffective in this fight. Sees the cheese tanking a lot of damage. He might actually go down. Never mind. He was able to turn around and eat that finger of death from behind. Just barely keeps him alive. Melon Fury is hexed. Has that shallow grave up. Is shackled up there. He'll actually die from the dot from the shackle. Doombringer turns around, whacks him. Lifestealer goes down, but his Aegis was about to wear off anyway. He doesn't really care. Spooky Scary Skeleton turns around. Level death. Right click. Gets a kill off. Romeo's running for his life. Open wounds will be up cooled in a few seconds, but they just get a right click instead. There we go, there's the open wounds. Right click to bring him down. Brightside New Zealand cops that double star storm. He doesn't care. Throws out the Hex, throws out the Shackle. He's turned Mirana into a chicken. Priestess of the Moon is now a chicken, and she's eaten off by Doom. Top Rex goes down at 23 minutes into the game. Looks like the die side are going to wisely choose to retreat. They're on very low HP right now. Timbersaw's just respawned. He can easily kill these heroes off if he gets a good combination. They're starting to do a little bit more damage to the tower. Brightside New Zealand has to be careful. Sees the cheese, cops both hits of the chakram. Throws out the shackle, throws out the ether shock. Necro Book picked up. Not too sure who actually has a Necro Book. There we go. Brightside New Zealand picked up that Necro Book. Chakram sees the cheese, taking a lot of damage from that chakram. He might actually go down if he goes in right now for another kill. Great 2-man inbuild. Chain Frost is thrown out. Bounces off to the creeps, unfortunately. Bounces back to the Melon Fury. And, oh my god, is that? Never mind, it just hits the creep. One more bounce on Melon Fury, a little bit more damage, he would have gone down. Brightside New Zealand's running for his life right now. He's going to die Sakuchi. He actually committed suicide with that Bloodstone. Good play from him, denying that extra golden EXP. More importantly, denying his spree. Diablos is running. He might get called out by the Weaver. Weaver's continuing to chase him, never mind. He finds a haste rune, he's going to scoot his way on out of there. And they lose 1. Which was actually a hero deny in exchange for Lena Rax as well as a tier 3 tower. Great play coming out from Team Struggle. 30,000 gold lead in favor of them. In terms of EXP, 25,000 EXP lead. Not really too sure the Radiant side can recover from this point. You'd even see from the ward positioning on the map, there's no way they can farm. The Ancients have been warded, their jungle has been warded. The only places they can farm is out in the lane, so when they're seen, Team Struggle can descend upon them, drop them out. Diablos takes an arrow to the face. He hasn't been having a great game. In regards to Mirana, great play coming up from him. Gets a good kill. Pushing down the middle lane. It's going to be the second tier 1 tower. Brightside New Zealand hanging around. Throws out that Ether Shock. Bit surprising he chose not to go for that Aghanim Scepter. Instead going for the Necro Book. With the amount of charges he had with the Bloodstone, he respawned almost instantly. He's actually extremely tanky right now. About almost 18k. Radiant's picked up on the Doombringer. Goes in for a kill attempt, catches him out the Shackle with the Hex. The Shackle and the Necrobook Illusions are hitting him right now. Bit surprising he chose not to go for that Mana Burn, but kills him nonetheless with that Ether Shock. He should have used that Mana Burn while he was hexed up, just in case Weaver had enough mana for Time Lapse or enough mana for Sakuchi. But other than that, good kill coming out from him. Mirana, she's picked up a Gloves of Haste, most likely will be going for a Maelstrom just to provide a bit of cheap extra damage. But with the group push coming out from Team Struggle, Shadow Shaman's going to throw out the Serpent Wards. Not too sure if the Radiant side can defend against this. However, right now, the Dire side is split up. There's only 4 of them. They've dropped that Moonlight Shadow. That's only level 2 Necrobook Illusions, so they won't be able to defend them. Weaver forced out to buy back. Pretty bad. Arrow flies out. Just barely misses, hits Diablos again. Diablos has been an arrow mech this game. 2-man Earth Spike. Rizzo leaps in, throws out that Starstorm. Secondary Starstorm hits. Eats a Chain Frost on his own, goes down. Diablos gets hit by a Chakram from Hobbs. Hobbs is doomed, goes down. Shiva's Guard. Quill Spray finishes off the Lion. And they call Bromeo calls GG. 26 minutes and 41 seconds. Team Struggle take a decisive Game 1. Well, Brightside New Zealand showing off how good he is on that Shadow Shaman. Moving on to Game 2, just going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.